Mindfulness is one of the most important developments in mental health this century. It can treat pain, depression, anxiety, addiction, PTSD, and on and on. But it's also for coping with everyday life. And who doesn't need a 20-minute vacation now and then? I'm Mary Windishar, and now on to the presentation, Mindfulness at Work and Home. Discussing today's topic, we're very lucky to have Dr. Mark Abramson. Dr. Abramson founded the Stanford Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Clinic 25 years ago. He has practiced TMJ dentistry in the Bay Area for more than 40 years, specializing in the treatment of chronic pain. Now let them look at you. You got to look at the camera, okay, because they want to see you. Focusing on non-drug integrated medicine approach. And he's also the inventor of an oral appliance for sleep apnea. Dr. Abramson has lectured throughout the world on TMJ, oral facial pain, and he leads retreats on mindfulness meditation. That's the most important part to him. One more surprise, Dr. Abramson also holds a black belt in Aikido. So we're really, really glad you joined us today. Thank you. We have a special setup just for you because this is a pretty special topic.
Thank you, Mary. Meditation is not anything new, 2,500 years old at least, but we're adapting it to our modern culture. And this is 2003. Time magazine started off with meditation. 2014, another article in Time of the Mindful Revolution. So the stress response is an ancient response. And when you've got an office worker like you or I, who's using the same response as a caveman used to fight the elements, we've got a problem. So we're sitting at our desk and getting stressed out because our computer isn't working right or something we're hearing or seeing, and we're not working off the stress hormones that are released. And stress has become a very big issue in our health and in society in general, and in medicine in particular. Stanford physician burnout has become a very serious problem to address, and Stanford's taken steps to help their physicians with their personal stress, forming a MD wellness committee. And Dr. Shannonfeld, who is the chief of wellness officer at Stanford Medicine, is quoted at a meeting as, not only do burned out physicians provide lower quality care, but practicing physicians who leave because of burnout cost the United States $5 billion a year. Not only that is an issue, but the fear of showing weakness is the most pernicious effect of physician unhappiness, and the result of that of unfortunate suicide. So every year, shockingly, it takes 3 medical school graduation classes to replace the physicians who committed suicide in a year. So we're going to talk about mindfulness as a resource for building resilience in your life and health and happiness. And the definition that we have for mindfulness is moment-to-moment, non-judgmental, non-reactive awareness. We could say peaceful awareness. So we start with kindness within. And one of the things that I love to stress is that imagine that the one thing that you could count on in your life, no matter what challenges your life would present, your health, your happiness, your family, that your own mind would always be kind to yourself. That's the one thing you could always count on. And this is your birthright to have your own mind being kind to yourself. And now's the time to claim it. Now, this picture shows somebody reading, apparently, but we're not clear if that's really what's happening. And the one example that I have that most clearly gets to the root of what mindfulness is reading. So we see here someone that appears to be looking at the page and reading, but inside her mind could be off somewhere else. And we have this experience all the time. We're going down a page and we're reading something, and we're connected, and all of a sudden a thought comes in, or what we're reading somehow takes the mind off into its own world of thoughts and plans that are not connected to what you're seeing. And the eyes don't even know that the mind's checked out. You go down the page, and at some point you wake up and you realize that I don't know a damn thing on that page, and you have to go back and reread. So mindfulness is that connection of actually reading. And unfortunately, we live a lot of our life in what we call automatic pilot. And that is disconnected to life itself. And what mindfulness is the journey back to life through our senses, through our experience. And what we know now, because science has come in and helped us understand what's going on inside of ourselves, particularly our brain, And we now know that there's part of our brain, this wandering mind that we that I mentioned here, is a certain part of the brain called the posterior cingulate cortex, which you don't have to remember. But the important thing is that this is the part of your brain that is just active but not really focused. And unfortunately, this is also termed unhappy mind. So this doesn't bring us effective relationship to life, and it doesn't bring us happiness. And what about 40% of our time, 47% of working hours is spent thinking of what's not going on. So this is also referred to as default mode. Default mode is self-focused, critical, and unhappy. It's like the pig pen cloud of dust that we take, dirt that we take with us all the time. And stress affects the whole body. It affects the whole organ system, it affects the brain, it affects your body chemistry, it affects your muscles. So this is a full body experience of a stress reaction. So stress in the brain is the part that we recognize or have a thought that leads you into stress, but ultimately the brain has to turn the stress reaction off. And unfortunately, the chemicals of stress are actually toxic to the parts of the brain that are responsible for turning the stress reaction off. So Robert Samplosky at Stanford says that the glucocorticoids trigger a curious cascade of death of the very brain cells that are meant to protect us, and this happens in the hippocampus. And this is a model of our chemistry of stress hormones, and the white line in the middle is what's supposed to happen. So at night we build up this chemical called cortisol, but during the day it's supposed to drop off. And in people who are chronically stressed, the top green line is what happens. It's a little higher at its peak in the morning when we wake up, but that's not really the critical time. The critical time is we've forgotten how to relax, and it stays high during the day. So what we're going to see is that in many different levels, we've forgotten how to relax, and both physically with our muscles staying tight throughout the day. If you use your muscles for something, you can use your muscles very powerfully for something. But once that work is done, you should let go completely. And the problem is that we've kept keeping our muscles tight so the blood can't flow through and clean out the muscles and feed them. Mentally, we've forgotten how to relax and have some quiet time, which the brain needs. And spiritually, we need this time for peaceful, purpose-driven life. And so one of the things that we can appreciate is that we have models for how we're working inside. And one of it is we can look at the computer, the files that we have on our desk. And what happens is throughout the day, you have various experiences. And these experiences that you have are filed away in a temporary drive during the day. At night, when we go to sleep, they're filed away permanently. And the way that we file away our life experience is according to its emotional content. So if something makes you angry during the day, you're going to file it away. And at night, it's going to go in your anger file. And unfortunately, when we're angry or upset about something, it colors our life, and that file is the only file that's open. So it's like a red filter. And it reveals all the things that have ever made us happy, unhappy and angry. And we see the future as being something that will make us unhappy and angry. And the corollary to that is we also have a file for happiness. And all the things that might make you happy today are stored temporarily, and at night you go to sleep, that goes into your happy file. And when you're feeling happy during the day about something good happens, and you let go and feel happy, that this file opens up. So the way that we store memories and the way that we retrieve memories is based on our state of being. So we can now start looking at this and understand that we really don't want these filters. We want to be open to all the colors of the rainbow. And I put this picture of Sally Ride because many years ago I lived in a house in Palo Alto with Stanford physics graduate students, and Sally Ride was the girlfriend of one of my roommates there, and so she was always at the house. And I was into meditation and all these things that were kind of contrary to physics, and they always made fun of me. And at that time, there were 0 peer-reviewed published articles on the science of mindfulness and how contemplative practice might affect us. And we see by this graph is exponentially that, and last year there was 667 peer-reviewed published articles, and this is exponentially going up. So now science is our friend. And about the time that book came out, which Scientific America came out with this cover picture of the neuroscience of meditation. And one of the things we can see here is we can look into the brain and see what's happening inside of ourselves in these very different states that are important to understand for our practice. So we talked about this default wandering mind. And as you see in the middle, the orange there, called the PCC, that's that cloud of dirt, the part that's not happy, and it's a lot of noise. So you can just see in the brain that there's a lot of activity. And it's the wandering mind. Now, distracted awareness, and this is important to understand because it's going to come in on our practice itself, is that there's a point where you're reading and your mind's going off, but you realize, you kind of wake up to the fact that your mind's gone off. And that moment, you're not lost anymore. You've come to the realization, and that's a different neurophysiology. And then there's the reorientation, that's bringing your mind back to the book. And that uses other parts of the brain that are very important. And then the sustained focus when you're just reading and you're absorbed in reading, or it could be sports, you're in the zone and you're just, playing basketball and hitting baskets. You can see that the mind is basically very quiet in that state, and only the parts of the brain that need to be used for that function are active. Everything else is quiet. So it's sustained focus, or being in the flow of sports, is actually a more quiet, peaceful state, and we need to remember how to get back to that. Now, there's some very good news here, that as you do these practices, it's been shown that we actually can grow throughout life these very important parts of our brain that have to do with executive function. That every time we notice that we've been distracted and we bring ourselves back to the focus of our attention, it's no different than exercising a muscle that gets stronger. We actually build pathways to these important parts of the brain that direct our attention, and we shrink and quiet the parts of the brain that have to do with reactivity and fear. Now, again, science just kind of building a scaffolding for this practice and how important it can be for your life on all different levels. The Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2009, Elizabeth Blackburn won the Nobel Prize for her discovery of telomeres. Now, telomeres are protective caps at the end of chromosomes. And these caps, stress has been shown to fray these caps and actually make you older on a chromosomal level. And so these caps are supposed to shorten every time the cell divides, but it ages these cells more quickly under the effects of stress. And one of the things that her laboratory explored is looking at meditation. Could that actually help with this? And sure enough, what they found out is that there's a chemical telomerase that repairs these frayed telomeres, and that activity is increased with meditation and the peacefulness and focus that occurs as you meditate. Now, we want to start to be able to take control of our physiology, of what's going on inside of ourselves. And the focus of meditation at the core is just awareness of breathing. It's just the breath you're taking right now. Sure, conceptually you know you're breathing, but are you really inside yourself to feel the sensations of your breathing? And it's important to know how to breathe, which kind of sounds ridiculous that we should think of knowing how we breathe, but the way that you move inside is a body language that tells your body whether to be worried about something and anxious about something or to be peaceful. So you've all heard, take a deep breath into your belly, or if you took a yoga class, breathe into your belly. But when I look at people in my classes, I see that they've so habituated to breathe up into their chest, which actually releases stress hormones. Just the movement inside does that. So bringing us back to Stanford again, Stanford has showed that this ancient technique finally found the mechanism that slow abdominal breathing actually relaxes us. So we're back to appreciate all the good work being done at Stanford. So slow, controlled breathing has been used for centuries to promote mental calming and is used clinically to suppress the excessive arousal, such as panic attacks. So if you're breathing correctly into your belly, it's impossible to have a panic attack because you can't release the stress hormones. The body just won't do that. So we want to have our diaphragm moving down, as you're seeing in this video, and that's the movement into the belly. So that releases the relaxation response. So we're going to practice in a few moments a formal meditation practice, which is sitting in time that we dedicate ourselves to tune in and to be aware of what's going on inside of us, and to use the anchor, which is the awareness of our breathing inside. But we also do this so we can live our lives mindfully. Mindfulness isn't something that we do for a period of a few minutes during the day and then we go into automatic pilot. Mindfulness should be something that we do all our lives. So we want to do it going to the bathroom, we want to do it eating, making love, and shower. And one of the things I love to get people to do, the most important quality for health and happiness in research has been shown to be appreciation. So practicing appreciation of what you have and all the luxuries that we have in our lives and the blessings that we have in our lives. And every day, just the miracle of having a shower, to a few generations ago, just being clean was a very big challenge to all the people on earth. And we get up every day and we get to take a shower and we go in this room and we turn this knob, and not only does water come out, but it's hot water. Mm-hmm. And we turn this knob, and what we typically do is feel the temperature of the room, the water. It's to find the Goldilocks temperature and get it, and then start thinking and planning and go into our head and go into this default mode as we're automatic pilot, washing ourselves, drying ourselves off. All you have to do to turn this into an amazing spa treatment that you have every day to luxuriate in is to stop thinking and planning and just feel the sensation of the water. Feel the soap. Feel yourself touching yourself. Feel the shampoo in your hair and getting a massage. Drying yourself off, you're getting a massage. And at the end, you've had this luxurious, relaxing experience that's available to you. All you have to do is claim it through awareness and through presence. So all these thoughts and plans that you have during the shower, now we can turn that into a formal practice. Eating lunch, put your cell phone aside and taste the food. Okay? So I hope that sets the framework for us to do this practice. We're going to spend about 10 minutes practicing now. And what I ask you to do is sit up in your chair and tune in to yourself. And the core of the practice is the awareness of our breathing. So we're going to tune in. It helps to close your eyes. Sitting up straight is a body language that attunes your body to be awake, and yet you can be very relaxed. And so as you tune in, to begin to notice the sensation of air coming into your body, being drawn in all the way down to the bottom of your lungs. And then when it feels comfortable and complete, notice yourself switching to begin to breathe out and feel the air being released. And just see if you can stay connected to the experience of the air coming in and out of your body. Sometimes we use a technique called noting, whereas we're breathing in, we just calmly in our mind quietly say the word in. And as we notice ourselves begin to breathe out, we quietly note out. This just helps us focus on the experience. Experience of feeling the air coming into your body, feeling it being released. As you're becoming connected to the feeling of the air moving in and out of your body, just allowing yourself to be just the way you are, nothing to change, letting the environment around you be just the way it is, all the sounds, any things going on outside, even in the world, just letting things be the way they are as you tune in to feel your own breathing. One of the things to appreciate is that you don't even have to stop your mind. People say, well, my mind wouldn't stop. Just let the activity of the mind kind of fade to the background a little bit as you bring to the foreground the focus of the awareness of your own breathing. If you lose connection for even a fleeting moment, the mind will fly away. And at some point you'll realize that and just bring yourself back to the breath. And as you come back, bringing out all the qualities you wish to cultivate in your life. Kindness, compassion, patience, caring. Is coming back with all the qualities you wish to grow. Just allowing yourself to feel the air moving into your body as you breathe in through your nostrils down to the bottom of your lungs, opening your belly, opening your body. And then letting go, letting the air release, not needing to rush to the end of the out-breath, just let the air flow out comfortably in its own natural flow. Your body thrives on this attention. Appreciating that this is an opportunity for you to be with yourself, the most important person in your life. And we're going to finish with the ring of a bell, and allow yourself to listen and open up to the sound of the bell, and staying with the sound until it completely completes into silence. See if you can be present for the last vibration of sound. And when you're ready, opening your eyes and acknowledging yourself, not for accomplishing anything, not judging whether you did good or bad, but just appreciating that you are beginning the journey to connect with yourself more deeply in your life and to take care of yourself. And I think we're ready for questions.
Thank you so much. And now on to the question and answer portion of our event. So we'll go ahead and take some questions from our audience. This is kind of funny. As I do the exercise, I feel like I'm going to sleep, but I'm at work. Now what?
Well, that's nice. Actually, one of the things that people discover initially in the beginning of meditation is the second class that we teach here. I asked how the week was, and half the class will say that they felt agitated. The other half would say they fell asleep. And my answer is that mindfulness doesn't create anything, but a lot of us are too tired. A lot of us don't sleep enough. Our lifestyle is not getting the sleep, and we're sleep deprived. And it's a sign that you actually began to relax. It's a sign that your physiology was changing, and you're feeling the tiredness that's inside in a more peaceful state. But don't worry about that, because actually that's a better physiology for you to have a creative mind and more outcome in your activities of the day. A peaceful mind is actually a happier and more productive mind. When the other side of that coin is that some people notice the agitation that's going on inside of themselves. It doesn't make you agitated, it's revealing the agitation. But the real skill and wisdom of the mindfulness practice is that we learn that not to judge that we can even hold agitation with a deeper peacefulness. And that's what we learn to do, and then the agitation itself settles down into a more healthy state.
And when you say hold it with peacefulness, you mean accept it? Is that what you mean?
Well, the awareness aspect of it, that we can always have a relationship to what's going on that is not caught in, let's say if we're upset about something, awareness itself is not caught in that upset. So the awareness itself is separate from that and can hold that with a skillful, peaceful kindness
That's
and compassion.
hard. I have to tell you, that's hard. And so you just practice until you get better at it, huh?
It's an important skill of life.
I
yeah.
know, right. Let's go back to this falling asleep thing. Should you stop yourself from falling asleep?
I call meditation falling awake. So ultimately, you want to become more aware, but it's this relaxed awareness. It's a wakefulness. And in traditional meditation, you know, sometimes people will stand up and meditate, and there's one of the original meditators in Asia, American that was there, he had a lot of problems falling asleep, and his teacher had him meditate sitting at the edge of a well, and that seemed to help him stay awake.
Yeah, okay. How do you recommend we practice mindfulness throughout the day? Is it as simple as making sure that we take deep breaths all the time?
Well, I wouldn't use the word deep breaths. It's more of a natural breath. But what I recommend to people, and kind of the challenge, offer you a challenge, is that you can have a little bit of attention to be aware of your breathing. Be dedicated to feel every breath you take during the day. And you can be very, very busy. 99% of your activity is focused on just trying to get done what you have to get done. But the miracle of this is you can have 1% of your attention connected to your breathing. And what that does, breathing, the reason we use breathing as a focus of awareness is because it naturally brings us to the present moment. You're not worried about the breath you're going to take 10 minutes from now. You're not rehashing the breath you took 10 minutes ago. Breathing kind of brings you to the now. And if you can have a little teeny bit of focus on your breathing, that's going to naturally keep you in the now and keep you more focused and calm ultimately.
I would like a pillow embroidered with that saying, breathing brings you to the now. That's great. All right, so somebody says here, actually, let me ask you a question. Are mindfulness and meditation the same thing? Do you use them interchangeably?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the moment I start breathing and relaxing, I find myself thinking of different things, some of which are really important and creative, and I want to write them down so I don't forget. So how do I balance that?
Well, part of that is to decipher which is the default mode of just the scattered thinking and planning and rehashing thoughts and projecting to the future, and what might be a creative thought that can often come up because it's actually, this is the physiology where the brain's creative centers are more active and more functional. The brain is like a seesaw. The more peaceful you are, actually the more complex parts of your brain are dominant, and the old amphibian part of your brain is more relaxed and turned off. When we get angry and upset about something, the seesaw goes the other direction, and the old reactive part of the brain is dominant now, and the part of you that says, you know, that's not a good idea to say something unkind to somebody I really love, particularly yourself, is actually shut down. So if you have a creative thought, an idea is you might want to put a pad of paper and just write one word that would key you back to them. But then go back to the practice and see that there's this fine line where that can be just a way of getting into the habitual mind. So there's kind of getting you can tell the difference between a really creative experience, we call that an aha, or the noise.
Okay. Okay. So should beginners utilize guided meditation or just focusing on the breathing like you mentioned?
They're both good. They're both different doors into the same room. Having something that guides you, something that reminds you at first can be quite helpful. Ultimately, it's going to be your mind directing attention into your own body. And we direct our attention to all our senses. You know, some of meditation is done listening to sounds, like you're just listening to the vibrations of sound that are coming to you. Some of it is body awareness based, feeling the sensations in your body, smelling, tasting. And one of the important things that's kind of difficult, and I always see in the classes, is people want to stop their mind. They think they should get into this magical place where no thought and they're just peaceful and everything. And when they try, they don't feel, they can't control their mind and it's so busy and active. That is not a problem. All you have to do is understand that you don't want to stop the mind. You just let it go to the background a little bit as you bring to the foreground your focus. So, and the mind, we actually use that as a focus of watching the activity of the mind. So mindfulness is very inclusive of life's experiences, your body sensations, your emotional feelings, all your senses of your body are how we perceive the moment.
Okay, and explain what guided meditation means.
Well, it can be led by people telling you different, focuses. It can be, there's all kinds of meditations. There's mantra, which is having a word or a sound that you repeat and and that's your object of focus. So what I see is that meditation has two different aspects of it. One is concentration. And it's developing that focus, okay? And we're starting off with the focus of feeling our breathing, okay? Then there's awareness. Some techniques are weighed a little bit more towards concentration and some are more towards awareness. And so mindfulness really combines both. We need both. We need to concentrate to be aware. So they're all, to me, good and helpful. And I prefer not to distinguish one as being better or worse than the other.
Okay. A challenge that I see in my everyday work life, and by the way, thanks to everybody for all these questions, is to stay present in dynamic team meetings with many contributions. It's easy to get lost in thought then and to fall back into old reactive patterns.
Right. Well, this starts off with the practice with yourself. Having some time of formal practice so you get connected to yourself and you don't lose yourself even with yourself. Then you take that to a meeting and you start to be aware of listening, times when you're listening, you're breathing in what other people were saying, you're staying connected to the group and the individuals in the group. But you're also, the foundation of that is being connected within yourself. And so this is where the formal practice leads to having a much stronger, better experience with your groups.
How about with children? Can they be trained, I like that word, to have a less distracted brain too?
Yes. Well, they're starting mindfulness programs in preschool, in kindergartens, and throughout school. So bringing mindfulness to education is becoming a significant part of the education process. And it's a little bit different. Obviously, a kid, I've heard people say that they'll have a period of time where a young child will lay down and they'll put their teddy bear on their belly. And they'll just get them used to feeling the teddy bear rise and fall on their belly. And That's one of the approaches of with a young child. In school, they're starting to have times where there's periods of just formal sitting and breathing and different practices. So it's a little bit different. Certainly, kids are not going to stay connected, focused for a very long time, but it can be very important to their education and their child development.
How about this one? Social media, speaking of kids, seems to counter mindfulness. So what advice can you give for how to be healthier in a digital world?
Yeah, and this is a big issue because kids' brains are being wired differently. Time and space is really changed with devices, and the research is actually not that good about what this does for their social development and their health and happiness. So I think that looking into this, reading about it, and also limiting screen time is I think, an appropriate and very important thing to do for kids' development.
Great. People are asking about participating in a mindfulness class. In fact, you got a shout out from somebody named Chuck, wants to know about your Tuesday night classes. But what about if you want to find one wherever you are?
Okay. All over the world, these classes have sprung up, and they started with mainly John Kabat-Zinn, who started a program at University of Massachusetts. He was featured on a PBS special, Bill Moyer's Healing in the Mind, probably about 30-some years ago. And the term today would be it went viral. And so it spread literally all over the world. And this is why I was able to found this program at Stanford, was really because of John's great work and his incredible skill and wisdom. And so you can go online, UMass, if you go to UMass Mindfulness, there's a place to click. At least I haven't looked at the website, but they have listings of programs all over the world. And so many hospital centers, many universities have these programs now.
Could you say the website again?
UMass Mindfulness. Just Google.
Oh, okay.
UMass Mindfulness.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. So here's somebody who says, I do 10 minutes of meditation every day. It's hard for me to stay still, and I find 10 minutes being a good time frame. My husband usually does it for a half hour to 45 minutes every day, and he feels like mine is too short. Is 10 minutes helpful?
It is helpful. And what I would encourage you to do is give yourself the full credit for what you're doing. And just see over time if that naturally extends itself, that you become more comfortable with 15 minutes, 20 minutes. We're all busy scheduled, but what I would really encourage you to do is that to see your whole life as meditation. When you're taking that shower, you're really feeling and experiencing the spa treatment you're getting. You're walking along, you're really feeling the air, feeling your feet move, feeling in your body. All these things are the way that we want to live our lives. And so 10 minutes of formal practice is wonderful, and just keep it going through the day and see how it evolves in your life, see how it naturally evolves.
So people love podcasts now, and they're listening to them while they walk or drive or do the dishes. Are you saying, or music even, are you saying don't do that? Or can the music be the thing that you love or enjoy?
You can be present and listening and appreciating and feeling how that's impacting your body, feeling the sensations as you're listening to music, noticing your state of body and mind. And so everything can be part of mindfulness practice.
Okay. So even if it's two stimuli, that's okay?
Yeah.
Okay. When I get stressed, I breathe heavier and get anxious. So how do I deal with those situations?
Okay. I'll bet, without knowing who this is or seeing you, I'll bet the problem is that you are breathing improperly. So when you say I'm breathing heavier, you're probably breathing up in your chest and your diaphragm is moving up. Now that's the internal mechanism for releasing stress hormones. So if I'm sitting here and I take a couple breaths like this, I can feel the stress hormones being released in my body just from those 2 breaths I just took, moving my diaphragm up. So we have to appreciate that a lot of us have developed the habit of breathing improperly, which is releasing stress hormones all day long. And so the first thing I do in my class is I teach people how to breathe and to get the diaphragm to go down. And when your diaphragm is going up, which is called reciprocal breathing, it's actually hard to get it to go down. So you have to exaggerate, pushing your belly out. And an opera singer taught me I was trying to figure out how do I teach people the easiest way of getting themselves to breathe properly. And an opera singer told me that her teacher tells her to get as wide as you can as you breathe in. And that naturally gets your diaphragm to go down. So you might have to really work on that. I found when I first learned about this that I wasn't breathing correctly. And if I'm obsessive compulsive about anything in my life, it's to make sure that I'm breathing better and better, getting my diaphragm down as I walk through the day, because I know how important that is. So what you're describing is probably improper breathing.
You mentioned effects of stress on the body, on the muscles, and everything. Does mindfulness help heal those effects?
Yes. So you become aware of the tightness in your body. You have an opportunity to respond to that and to remember how to let go. And I use the term remember how to let go. I do a lot of work with my hands, and I was starting to get carpal tunnel on my hands. And so before I went to bed every night laying there, I would bring my attention into my hands to learn about what I was doing. And what I realized is that I was using my muscles and I'd literally forgotten how to let go. And so the blood wasn't able to flow through the muscles. And the interesting thing about sometimes as we begin to let go is that we think it should be comfortable and feel good. But actually, it's very similar to if you've been sitting on your leg and the blood hasn't flown through your leg and you move it and the blood starts to flow through and your leg starts to wake up. It's pins and needles and throbbing as that happens. So that's what happened to me. It started to burn and throb and all these things. And I just observed that and used that as a biofeedback to show that I was letting blood flow through those areas again until it's like a fever, until it broke. Wow. And then I knew I could go to bed and sleep and blood would be flowing through my muscles. And I did this for a couple months and it totally healed.
Wow.
By remembering how to let go. So it was a very big lesson to me about how we can get caught in these tightnesses, body, mind, and spirit, where we literally have to remember how to let go. We have to remember how to quiet our mind. We did this as kids. We sat back and watched clouds, really looked into a flower. And now we walk past and I already know what a flower looks like. I don't have to look anymore. And our mind is just busy. And so the practice is just remembering how to be at peace with our body and our mind.
And focusing on that part, because I remember in the green room you said you've never taken an ibuprofen or any kind of painkiller. So that's spectacular that you could actually do that. Was there a best time of the day to meditate?
Well, any time is good. If I had a preference, it would be in the morning because you get up and you're kind of waking up. And so you get up and as you're practicing, you're becoming more and more awake. At the end of the day, there's the chance you're really tired and there's a bigger chance of falling asleep. But certainly if that's the only time you had and you practiced in the evening, it would be wonderful and better than nothing. So, you have to make it. I've had people who at lunchtime they go out in their car and they meditate, or their cubicle, they kind of just sit there in their cubicle and that's their time to practice. And so you kind of fit it in your day. We have programs that we had for physicians, and physicians are already too busy and don't have time. And what we did is we had the chief of surgery here do a video of him meditating as he's scrubbing up for surgery, instead of thinking and planning, using that time to connect with himself, to feel what was going on, to feel the water, to feel the soap, and become a practice that didn't take any extra time. So we can do these things throughout the day with the things that we're already doing, plus hopefully create some time where we have a formal practice.
Okay. I love this. I wasn't being mindful. Did doctors say UMass mindfulness?
Yes.
Okay, there it is, UMass mindfulness. Thank you for being so vulnerable there. All right. What about tips for people with asthma? For breathing techniques, I do feel panic and anxiety because of breathing issues due to asthma.
Right. Okay. Well, it's very important, again, the abdominal breathing. And so when we start to feel the panic or worry about are we going to have an attack or something like that, we don't realize that we unconsciously go into this breathing that is less air moving in and out of our body. It's releasing stress hormones that are affecting ourselves on all kinds of chemical and body levels. And so the thing I would recommend is to really be, someone with asthma, really be practicing and getting good at that diaphragmatic slow breathing, to let your brain know that you can take this breath and the air is coming in fine. And you can make the breathing pace very slow. And so if you breathe real hard and try to get the end of the in-breath, that creates a lot of vacuum that throughout the respiratory system. And if you're breathing slower, you see the air flows more easy with less resistance. So you want to really focus on getting good at breathing into your belly. And if a wind instrument or singing or drama in a play, all these people have to be taught to diaphragmatically breathe, because what happens is that when we breathe improperly, we get less air in our lungs with each breath, and we're going to run out of air, and we have to talk really fast because we know we're going to get to the end of this. So we become panicky, and it just becomes a whole expression inside and outside. So as you breathe diaphragmatically, you'll get more air, you'll know that you can complete your sentence, you'll be more relaxed, and so it creates a virtuous cycle of peace and health.
So nice. How does mindfulness differ from transcendental meditation?
Well, again, I think there are two different doors into the same room. And I know a lot of people like to say, mine's better, this is better. I don't like to get into that. Anything that you do that's going to cultivate presence and awareness is going to be helpful and is going to contribute to the health and happiness in your life.
How about this? For those who have experienced trauma and traumatic experiences, even if they have experience in meditation, how does one focus in the meditative moment while experiencing those strong emotions, anxiety, fear, deep sadness? That is, the mind's going everywhere.
Right, right. Well, this is where mindfulness can really be helpful. As you learn to feel the sensations of what's going on, you react to it less. And it's, again, the way that you hold that. So you could be feeling fear, tremendous fear, but there's part of you that is not caught in that fear. And that's the part of you that's the awareness that's observing the sensation of fear. So what we want to understand is that what we're reacting to is our thoughts about something as opposed to the feeling itself, okay? So part of, if you have a traumatic, uncomfortable feeling starts to arise, and it's what I call the oh shit mantra. You go into panic or you go into fear. And we want to shorten that to just oh. And that you observe that feeling and that you don't get carried away by it, but you start to hold it and almost embrace it. So what got me into all this was I was hit by a car as a pedestrian as a kid. And I had all the post-traumatic stuff of hearing a car, the car engine. I didn't see the car before or after. I was on a sidewalk. I should have been fine. And afterwards, if I heard a car engine, I would go into a panic attack. And I would run, if I was crossing the street, I'd run back to the other side, totally out of control. And the one thing I was able to do somehow, before I even knew about meditation, is recognize that this was something that was wired in my brain to have this strong reaction to, because my brain didn't want me to get hurt again.
The brain is smart.
The brain is smart. And this sound was a danger sound. But I realized I could talk to this from another part of my brain that wasn't involved with that. So as I would be out of control and I would run back, I would actually talk to that other part of my brain and say, thank you, thank you. I know you want to protect me, but notice at this moment I'm safe. And then I'd cross the street and it would happen again. And every time it got less and less and less. So part of this way of holding things is that to recognize is that trauma or fear is a very strong, intense experience. But we can start to relate to it and soften it, and through that begin the healing process. And mindfulness is an incredible tool to begin the healing process.
And what I love is that you respected it. Thank you for trying to protect me. Not
Yeah.
bad. Okay, I've never meditated before for more than a couple minutes, but today, going through the full 10 minutes, I didn't feel sleepy or agitated. I became emotional and teary-eyed. I surprised myself. Have you ever seen others experience that kind of reaction?
Of course. And maybe that's what's inside that's starting to be free to come out. And it's also a very emotional experience to be connected to yourself. You know, the beauty of being connected within yourself is very emotional. It's in of itself. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this. What do you want to leave us with? We've had so many great comments and stories.
Well, the thing I like to leave you with is that your life is important. Your health and your happiness is important to the world. And you have a unique way of contributing to the world. And by taking care of yourself and by nurturing yourself and being kind to yourself, that is going to come out from you. And the world needs that. So thank you.
Well, we've got one more question. It says, Dear Sir, thank you for the great talk. So we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
This will be the last webinar for 2018, but we will be back in January. I'm Mary Windishar, and on behalf of Dr. Abramson and our team here at Stanford, thank you for joining us. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.